This audio was recovered from a digital recorder found in the Alaska Range, north of Denali National Park.
Did you hear that?
Hear what?
It sounded like someone calling my name.
In February 2021, two experienced backcountry climbers entered a remote section of the Alaska Range, north of Denali National Park. Their names were Ethan Walker and Lucas Walker. They were brothers, and they were not new to this environment. Ethan was 34 years old, a former wilderness rescue volunteer who had spent years navigating isolated terrain in Alaska and northern Canada. Lucas, 3 years younger, worked as a nature photographer and expedition support specialist. Together, they had completed winter routes that most climbers refused to attempt. This was not an impulsive trip. They planned a 5-day traverse through an isolated valley far from marked trails. No summit attempt, no extreme objectives, just a controlled crossing, documentation, and exit on the eastern side of the range. They registered their route with a local charter pilot in Toquitna. They left coordinates. They carried satellite communication devices. They packed redundant gear for cold, navigation, and emergencies. On paper, there was nothing reckless about the expedition. The Walker brothers entered the Alaska Range on February 12, 2021. Weather conditions were harsh but stable. Temperatures averaged well below freezing. Winds were present, but within expected limits. Visibility fluctuated, as it often does in winter, but there were no major storms forecast for the first days. For the first 48 hours, everything followed plan. Ethan recorded short audio notes on a digital recorder he carried in his jacket pocket. These notes were not meant for publication. They were practical. Observations about snow density, wind direction, terrain difficulty. Lucas occasionally spoke in the background, commenting on light conditions or joking about the cold. At 7:42 p.m. on the first night, the recorder captured Ethan's voice clearly.
Camp set. Wind's picking up, but nothing unusual. Visibility dropped fast after sunset. Tomorrow, we push east and cut through the valley.
Lucas laughed quietly.
You said that last time and we froze for 6 hours.
Ethan replied without hesitation.
That's why we brought extra fuel this time.
Normal conversation. Normal tension between two people used to operating in difficult conditions. The second day passed much the same. At 6:19 p.m., Ethan recorded another update.
Crossed the ridge earlier than expected. Snowpack is solid. No signs of instability. Lucas spotted tracks. Probably caribou. No other movement.
Lucas added softly, almost as an afterthought.
This place feels empty.
Ethan did not respond to that comment. That was the last entry that could be described as routine. On the third day, something changed. The shift is subtle. There is no sudden scream, no dramatic declaration. Most people miss it unless they are listening closely. At a little over 3 hours into the continuous recording, there is an extended pause. No footsteps, no wind, just silence. Then Lucas speaks.
Did you hear that?
Ethan answers immediately.
Hear what?
There is a pause, longer this time.
It sounded like someone calling my name.
Ethan exhales.
It's the wind. This valley echoes strangely. Don't answer it.
Lucas does not reply. From that moment on, the rhythm of the recording changes. Conversations become shorter. Movements sound more deliberate. There are longer stretches of silence between sounds. At around 4 hours and 50 minutes, the sound appears again. Low, distant, not animal, not wind. It is not loud enough to understand words, but it has a cadence that feels intentional. Lucas whispers,
That wasn't the wind.
Ethan hesitates before responding.
No, it wasn't.
There is no panic yet, just uncertainty. Later that night, the recorder captures cooking sounds, the hiss of fuel, fabric shifting inside the tent. The brothers talk briefly about the next day's route, but their voices lack the casual tone from before. Then, just after midnight, the sound returns. This time, it is clearer, a voice, human, calling a name. The way the name is spoken is wrong. The timing between syllables is uneven, stretched unnaturally. Lucas's breathing becomes audible.
That's my name.
Ethan responds quickly, trying to control the situation.
Don't answer it. Don't say anything.
There is a pause. Then the voice comes again, closer. Ethan's tone changes. That's not an echo. The wind suddenly intensifies, striking the tent from multiple directions. Snow impacts the fabric. For several seconds, the recording is chaotic. When the wind subsides, the voice returns. This time, it says something else.
Ethan.
Lucas freezes.
That sounded like you.
Ethan does not answer immediately. The recorder captures his breathing. Slow, controlled, but tense. After this moment, the recording no longer captures clear dialogue. What follows is a sequence of sounds, movement around the tent, footsteps in snow, fabric being pressed from the outside. The sounds circle the tent, sometimes from the left, sometimes from behind, sometimes from multiple directions at once. At one point, the zipper of the tent opens slightly. Lucas panics.
Don't go out.
Ethan speaks quietly.
I just need to see.
Lucas's voice breaks.
Ethan, please.
Footsteps leave the tent. There is silence. 30 seconds pass. Then Ethan screams. It is not a scream of pain. It is the sound of someone recognizing something that should not exist. Lucas shouts.
What did you see?
Ethan stumbles back into the tent. His breathing is erratic.
We have to leave. Now.
Lucas tries to steady him. Ethan does not answer. Outside, the voice changes again. It sounds closer, and now it sounds familiar.
Lucas, it's okay.
Lucas begins to cry.
That sounds like me.
Ethan whispers.
It's copying you.
The tent shakes violently. Not from wind, from movement. Heavy footsteps. Too heavy to be human. The recorder captures frantic activity. Equipment being knocked over. Fabric tearing. The brothers exit the tent and begin running, breathing, snow crunching under boots. The voice follows them, now from more than one direction. From this point forward, the recording is no longer complete. What follows was reconstructed from partial audio, timestamps, and written transcription made by investigators after the device was recovered. The sequence is fragmented, but the timeline is clear. Lucas is running. His breathing is erratic, uneven, inconsistent with controlled movement. You can hear snow breaking underfoot, branches snapping, the sound of someone moving too fast in terrain that does not allow speed. At one point, Lucas stumbles. The recorder captures the impact. A sharp sound, a brief loss of orientation. Ethan turns back. He calls Lucas's name. There is no immediate response. Then a scream, but it is not Lucas's voice. It matches his tone, his cadence, his inflection, but something about it is wrong. The scream stretches unnaturally, as if the sound itself is being forced through an imperfect copy.
Ethan, it took me.
That is the moment Ethan stops running. You can hear it in his breathing, the sudden halt, the silence between steps. This is not fear. This is recognition. That voice is not his brother. For several seconds, there is no movement, no speech, only wind passing through the valley. Then footsteps again. Slow, measured, deliberate, not running, approaching. Ethan speaks quietly, almost to himself. His voice is barely audible on the recording.
If you're really my brother, say something only we know.
The silence that follows lasts longer than expected, long enough to feel intentional. Then the voice responds.
Mom's birthday, April 7th.
Ethan inhales sharply.
That's wrong.
The correction is immediate, instinctive. Their mother's birthday was April 9th. The voice does not argue. It adjusts. Its tone changes.
Come with us. Come with us.
At that moment, running resumes. Faster than before. Less controlled. The recorder bounces violently, suggesting it was no longer being held deliberately. Then it drops. The device lands face down in the snow. From this point on, there is no intelligible human speech, only environmental audio, wind, distant movement, breathing, growing weaker and more irregular as it fades into the distance. Then, a final sound, a scream, abruptly cut off. For the next 10 hours, the recorder continues to run. There is no speech, no movement near the device, only wind shifting across the valley. At dawn, something approaches, heavy steps, slow, measured. The breathing that accompanies them does not sound human. Then a voice, clear, perfectly articulated.
Emily, we're alive.
Emily Walker was their younger sister. She was listed as the emergency contact on their satellite registration. The recorder is struck, buried beneath snow. The audio ends. Search teams entered the area 3 days later. Weather conditions delayed aerial access, but ground teams reached the last known camp without incident. The main tent was intact. Supplies were organized. Fuel remained. Food was untouched. There were no signs of struggle, no blood. No damage to equipment, no indication of wildlife intrusion. This immediately raised concern. Experienced climbers do not abandon shelter during extreme winter conditions unless something forces them to leave. Exposure deaths typically occur after prolonged attempts to survive, not sudden flight into open terrain without gear. Yet the camp showed no signs of panic, no overturned items, no hurried packing. The only disturbance was outside. Footprints leading away from the tent. They were uneven, erratic, as if the brothers had been running. Those tracks were followed for nearly 2 kilometers before they abruptly ended. There was no gradual fading, no indication of collapse. The prints simply stopped. Searchers described it as if the brothers had been lifted from the ground. Nearby, there were other impressions in the snow. Larger, deeper, indistinct, too distorted to be conclusively identified as animal tracks. Wildlife specialists were consulted. Their assessment was cautious. These could belong to a large predator, the internal report stated, but the stride pattern does not match known species in this region. That line was later removed from the public report. The secondary backpack was not discovered until 6 days later. It was partially buried near the edge of the valley. The fabric was torn, not by abrasion, but by force. Inside were spare gloves, camera batteries, and the digital recorder. The recorder was still powered on. According to device logs, it had been recording continuously since the 3rd night of the expedition. This raised an immediate technical concern. The recorder's battery life, under cold conditions, should not have exceeded 36 hours. Yet it had remained operational for 9 days. Technicians found no evidence of modification, no auxiliary power source, no external interference. The battery was nearly depleted, but functional. One search volunteer noted that the device felt warm to the touch when recovered. This observation was not included in the final report. The audio files were reviewed by a limited group of investigators. What they heard was considered disturbing, but inconclusive. There was no identifiable attacker, no evidence of criminal activity, no basis for further action. From a legal standpoint, the case could not proceed. The official conclusions cited exposure, disorientation, and possible wildlife interaction. Case closed. But the explanation failed to account for what happened next. In the weeks following the disappearance, Emily Walker began receiving messages. They came from a satellite number that should have been inactive. Each message was brief. Each message used simple language. "We're alive. Come find us. Come alone." Emily assumed it was a malfunction. Then the messages continued. Authorities traced the signal to the same satellite network the brothers had used, but the account was closed. The device was listed as missing. There should have been no outgoing transmissions. Over the next 2 weeks, Emily received 12 messages. All were variations of the same request. The messages stopped only after she blocked the number. Investigators attributed the transmissions to signal delay or interference. Privately, technicians admitted this explanation was insufficient. Emily never returned to the valley. She changed her number. She moved away from Anchorage. According to her therapist, she developed severe anxiety related to audio stimuli, wind through trees, distant voices, low-volume recordings. She refused to listen to the recovered audio, but she could not forget it. An independent audio analyst later reviewed a summary of the files. He noted irregular frequency patterns inconsistent with normal human speech. There were unnatural gaps between syllables, subharmonic distortions, consistent with mimicry rather than biological vocalization. The voices were organic, but not human. This assessment was never published. In the months that followed, unrelated hikers reported similar experiences in the same region, hearing their names spoken while alone, voices calling from ridgelines where no one stood. In each case, the individuals retreated immediately. No further disappearances were reported. Park officials quietly restricted access to the area the following winter. No formal announcement was made. The route simply vanished from recommended maps. The valley remained accessible, in theory. Permits were never approved. The recorder was placed into evidence storage. During a routine inventory check months later, a technician reported that the device powered on briefly before shutting down. This was attributed to residual charge. The technician declined further involvement. As of today, the case remains classified as accidental death. No remains have been recovered. No further searches are planned, but questions remain. Why did 2 experienced climbers abandon shelter without equipment? Why did a recorder function far beyond its technical limits? Why did the voices know their names? And why did the messages stop only after Emily refused to respond? Some argue for hallucination, extreme isolation, cold-induced auditory distortion, shared delusion. This explains some elements, not all. Hallucinations do not leave footprints. They do not adapt language. They do not send messages days after a device is lost. Others suggest rare acoustic phenomena, terrain-induced sound anomalies. But anomalies do not follow people. They do not imitate specific individuals. They do not respond to questions. There is a quieter theory, rarely discussed outside local circles, that something in the Alaska Range uses sound as a tool. Not a predator, not an animal, but something that listens, learns, repeats. This theory has no proof, no confirmed sightings, only patterns, and a recorder that kept listening long after no one should have been there to speak. Before this video ends, consider one question. If you were alone in the mountains, and you heard your own voice calling your name from the darkness, would you answer? Leave your theory in the comments. If you want more investigations like this, subscribe to the channel. Some recordings don't end when the tape stops. They end when someone listens. And sometimes, when you listen long enough, something listens back.